What's up, guys? It's your host here, Spartanic Arts DXD, back with another high school DXD related video. And today we have What If Issei Left, part 15. And once again, ladies and gentlemen, if at all possible, get 500, 600 likes, that'd be absolutely amazing. And if you guys want to know exactly when I upload, my upload schedule, click the little blue button right next to the subscribe button, or the first link in the premiere, or the first link in the description. Either way, you'll find your boy's upload. So thank you so much for the support. I really do appreciate it. You know, this story's been going on. And Popowski doing well. It's my second channel. Fallen DXD, it's got it going on. You know, things like that. You know, we're working. So, and also, obviously, I have my Patreon now where I actually I just reacted to High School DXD episode 1 on my Patreon. Okay, it'll be linked in the premiere, the description, the first link in the comments, my community page, etc. If you want to go support me over there, that would be awesome too. Now, obviously, I'm not going to waste too much time. Without further ado, let's go ahead and thank my balance breakers. Aunt Lewis, Lachlan Yates, Jordan Patchout, Nightam, Refeek135, Slow, The Black Dragon Emperor, Keep Saying 21, Undefined Truth, VR Wolf, Dark Phoenix, ZK2000, Chen Byun, Chaotic Raven, Mazaku, Dr_MLG_ is the Bomb, Grim Fireshot Gamer, Ryuga, Source Spawner, Rob the King, and Zero Fusion. And also, I would like to have a special thank you to my next people, which have been supporting me on Patreon, and some of them are even my balance breakers as well, but some people are just on Patreon strictly. So shout out to my Patreon members you'll see on screen right now, which is Justin Branovich, I'm pretty sure, Ryuga, Lachlan Yates, The Black Dragon Emperor, Stripeglander, Mark Bacon, and Sharklock. Thank you so much for becoming a Patreon member, and don't worry, Jeffrey, I see you too. Thank you so much for the support, like, on Patreon as well. I just reacted to High School DxD episode 1. I'll probably have the second one out either today or tomorrow, you know, for episode 2, because, you know, it's a pretty hard watch right now. But thank you so much for the support, ladies and gentlemen. Without any other further interruptions, let's go ahead and get into part 15. Alright, so we're right kind of at the beginning of chapter 21, not like exactly, but you understand what I'm saying. We just left off where Kadase is talking about the ORC girls and how they did Issei dirty, etc., and the clips and things like that. So yeah, if you understand my point. Also, a lot of people have been asking me if I have a Discord. Yes, I have a Discord. It's in the description below, in the first link in the comments, etc. You get the point. I'll leave the link, whatever. But anyway, let's go ahead and get into the episode. Murayama starts off. Yeah, she also said that she was Issei's childhood friend. When she first came to the school, she was definitely surprised to see her. He was definitely surprised to see her. So I guess the claim is true from how they talked. Zectodius looked at Sona, who wanted to facepalm again. She completely forgot that Irina had her own club. With that, these girls would suspect her to be part of the ORC. Now, it looks like she only hung around them to be near Issei. She could not believe how lucky the reincarnated angel was, but then she remembered what Michael said. He firmly believes that Irina will confess her sin. She can only hope that he was right. Well, we can't ask Irina because she didn't have to come in today. I didn't see her with Azia nor Zenobia, Akia said. Well, I know if my childhood friend was getting cheated on, I wouldn't be one to near those that hurt them. She did not know that she was half right on that statement, Kadase said. Well, I hate to intrude on your conversation, but if those are your requests, I will make sure both the Kendo Club and the Journal Club are compensated, and I will look into getting into the skirts a bit longer. Though that may change, that not come immediately, but likely the next school year, and thank you for bringing it to my attention. Now, I don't want to cause any conflict with your studies, so you may go. Thank you for your time, waving off the three girls, Zectodius did. We shall escort them, Sona says, as she, Rhea, and Momo followed the three girls outside to the office. Once they were out, Sona got close to Akia and whispered in her ear. You have that look in your eyes, Sona said. You want answers about some things? I will tell you now. The girls will be excused for the rest of the week after today, and at any point before the school year ends. You can come to the office for the answers you seek. You can bring the two others with you if you want. Since the Kendo duo were distracted by talking with Momo and Reo, they did not hear the conversation behind them. Momo and Reo were able to hear because of their devil hearing. They knew what their mistress was going to do. She was going to recruit either Akia or all of these three into their barrage. They reached the classroom that the girls were in. Sona gave a nod. Razvai said she was a homeroom teacher. The nod was to let her know that she is the reason for the girls being absent. Sona could tell that Azia and Zenobia were looking at her quizzically, and Akia was right. Irina did not seem to be around, with nothing else to do. She dismissed Rhea and Momo back to their classes. When she came back to the student council office, she saw Zectodian had left, so he tightened up her desk and looked back at the pawn pieces, letting out a sigh. She gathered her things and went down to her classroom, preparing herself to tell Rias to gather her club members for a lunch break and meet in her office and send them away, while the recording gets released. Now, we're back with Issei. He was in Ddraig's cave. He had found the book that he was looking for, but he realized that he could not transport himself. Arondite, any idea why I can't go from here? Issei said. You didn't say that you transported something earlier, Arondite said. Yeah, my former pawn pieces, Issei replied. Well, I do know a barrier that was set up to prevent unwanted visitors from entering this cave, Arondite said. So, I need to leave cave completely. If I can transport inanimate objects or things that are not living while in here, can someone transport something to me, Issei says? If I remember, when the barrier was constructed, you could send things out, but nothing can be sent back to you, Arondite says. I'm guessing you would know, since you've been around since Belzard's time, Issei said. Belzard, Arondite said. I'm sorry, I meant Galahad. Forgot you're still not used to that name yet, Issei says. Ah, yes, the son of my former carrier. He worked with a powerful mage to move things from Camelot to here into France, Arondite said. Any idea on who the mage was? As he was beginning to leave the oasis and entering the treasure room. It was a woman, a beautiful one at that, Arondite said. So he had a relationship with her, Issei replied. No, he was willing to help the Knights of the Round Table, but displayed no romantic interest, and neither did he, Arondite said. After a few minutes of silence, he exited the cave altogether. It felt like a sudden shift because of the time difference between the oasis and the real world. In the oasis, it was a nightmare, and right now, it seemed to be an early morning in the real world, or at least in France. Issei, I feel there is a piece of me out here, Arondite said. Out there. Really? Issei replied. Yes, but to warn you, the mage that I told you about, she placed like a seal around the cave to keep my power contained. Now that I have left, possible enemies may be after us. You learned some sealing magic, correct? Arondite says. Yeah, I did. Figured it would be useful to store some things, Issei said. Then seal me inside of you. It's a good thing you left those dragon daggers in your cave. Your aura is that of a human's mostly, Arondite said. What do you mean mostly? Issei replied. Well, since you meditated that one time to unlock your sacred gear, your aura changed very slightly. Very small portion of you changed from human to dragon, Arondite said. So, meeting Ozai did help with something, Issei replied. But with me being inside of you, I will act similar to a sacred gear. You can summon me, but I can speak with you, while sealed. Just be wary, as when you do unseal, unwanted attention may come our way, Arondite said. I understand. As he focused on the ceiling, a magic circle appeared in a back, and Arondite sunk into his body. When completed, he took deep breaths. It didn't take as much time as strain before. Well done. Your human aura should be able to conceive my powers, as humans have a balance of light and dark, Arondite said. Thanks. Let's move further away from the cave, so I don't get traced back. If someone were to pick up on my magic, Issei says. He headed into the forest. He hadn't been in the real world, since he had come out to hunt for that deer. He was very crude in how he killed the animal, definitely not a clean kill. He listened to tales of Lancelot from Arondite as he walked. After around 45 minutes, he stopped, but not because he felt that he walked enough. Arondite, someone was here, Issei said. As he saw footprints, they were similar compared to his. We should be mindful. You are a couple miles away from the cave, Arondite said. Yeah, looks like they were not heading towards the cave, but we should stop here. Don't want to run into them. We don't know their objective, Issei says. Indeed. Let's head over there, to your right, Arondite said. Good idea. The footprints looked like they were heading to my left. Might be where they were located, walking towards the right, as Arondite indicated. When he reached a clearing, it felt a calm scenery. Despite the fact that there was someone out there, he felt at peace. It was a clearing. It was quiet, other than his breathing. You remember the spell, right? Arondite says. Yeah. Just remember that it's been a while since I have been clearing like this, Issei said. Really? Arondite replied. Yeah, since I am heading to see my grandma. My grandpa, he used to take me out of a place like near this place, Issei said. I see. Focus on the spell and where you plan on going, Arondite replied. I know. Okay. Closing his eyes as a magic circle appeared under him. Focus, Issei says. A flash went by and Issei opened his eyes and looked around. Did it work, Issei said. He looked around. There was the same silence around. I'm not sure, Arondite replied. Issei walked over, though he thought he came from it, noticed that the footprints were not there. Where am I? Issei said. He whispered to himself. The footprints are not there, but this place... It feels familiar, Issei said. Do you know this place? Arondite replied, hearing Issei's thoughts. I'm not sure. Those footprints I saw earlier, they're not there. Were they ever they really here? Oh man, I have been in the cave for too long, as he sat down to think. He felt like he failed the spell, now believed that he was hallucinating the footprints that he knew that he saw earlier. Get a hold of yourself. You shouldn't feel down about this. Look around. You get a feel of your surroundings, Arondite said. Okay, I can do that, man. The sun's a lot brighter than before. His eyes widened. Wait a minute. The sun's brighter, Issei said. It was just early morning when we had left. The sun could not be this bright in such a short amount of time. So clearly transported yourself. Probably somewhere where it headed in their time zone, Arondite said. Like Japan. Wait a second. It's not as green either, and the trees look older. Hold on. As he started to walk towards a tree, Issei did. His heart was pounding, as he saw a slightly different shade of brown on the tree. It looked like a crude mark from years ago. He could faintly see what the mark was, and his breath hitched in his throat. A tear rolled down his eyes as he gripped the trunk hard. Arondite, I know where we are. I never thought I would be in this place. Only 3 people have been here, Issei says. Really? Arondite replied. Yeah. It's a clearing that of my grandfather took me to when I was young, Issei said. As he stepped back, the trunk looked at the tree that was marked in their initials, IH, JH, and SI. He knew who the initials stood for. The IH meant him, Issei, and the JH stood for his grandfather, Juzo, and the SI was Shido, or rather Irina Shido. He remembered when they were young. His grandfather showed him in Irina this clearing. It was his secret place to get away from his grandmother, whenever she was in one of her moods, as he called it. Sometimes they went camping out here. Those were fun times, but then things changed. Irina moved. Then his grandfather died. He could not see his grandmother as much, one of the few people that cared for him as he became alone again, since the Hyoudou tended to leave him on his own devices most of the time. I have fond memories of this place, Issei said. At least you know where we are. What led you to transporting us here, Arondite said. Since we were going to see my grandmother. I thought of my grandfather as well as I remembered this place, Issei said. I see. Shall we continue on our journey then, Arondite said. Yeah. Issei replied. Looking back at the initials, he smiled upon seeing his grandfather's initial before he turned away and teched towards his grandmother's house. Along the way, Arondite was curious about the initials in the tree, which Issei explained that were his grandfather's, and Irina's. Of course, Arondite did ask if they were the same girl that talked about during their training, and Issei said yes. It surprised Arondite on why Issei did not destroy her initials, and Issei informed the seal that the sword that her initials were carved there by his grandfather, so they are his grandfather's work. He would not want to desecrate his grandfather's work out of respect for someone who cared about him. Arondite kept quiet after that, until he decided to ask Issei what his grandmother was like. Well, she is strict but caring. She expected me to be perverted because it kind of runs in the family, which shows how hypocritical the Hyoudou are, Issei says. They could not see how their own attitudes would afflict, and you are the byproduct of them, Arondite says. The only unfortunate thing is that I don't share the same blood as my grandmother and grandfather, so I am no longer a Hyoudou by name nor blood, Issei said. He exited out of the forest to see a wonderful log cabin, the house where his grandmother now lived. It was a small cottage, but Valena expanded upon it just a little. His grandmother did not want as much space like it was a mansion was. There it is, Issei said, smiling and seeing his grandmother's place. May I borrow your sight? Connecting to Issei's senses, not a bad place. You can keep up with your training as well, Arondite said. I'd rather train in the Oasis. I have more time. The time spent out here is like 5 times more in the Oasis, Issei said. I suppose, but the change of scenery may help you, and you get to learn more about your family, Arondite said. That's true. Well, I hope she prepared for what I'm about to tell her, Issei replied. With what you've been through, I don't think anyone would be prepared, Arondite said. I supposed. Well, time to see Bachan, as he began walking into the cabin. Pentadragon Mirror, when Issei left the cave. Merlin sat reading a book until she felt the presence that she was connected to. Arondite had left where it was stored, and she could feel it. Arthur and the others saw her tense up a bit. Is something the matter, Lady Merlin? Arthur replied. Yes, I felt Arondite. It was left where I kept it and has been brought to the outside world, at least for a minute, Merlin said. Guess Issei made his move, Byuko replied. Not necessarily. We cannot know that for sure, Arthur said. You are right, but Arthur, these sacred gears, I'd like to learn more about them. Is it possible to contact someone that could assist me? Merlin says. I could try and contact one of the Mao and see if they can contact Michael, as it was his father, the biblical god that created them, as he created a communication circle, Arthur did. He failed in contacting Seraphon and Sir Zex when he reached Falbum. All he heard were snores. Luckily, Ajuka was available. Hello? Who is speaking? Ajuka said. Greetings, Ajuka-sama. I was wondering if you can get in contact with Michael-sama for me. Lady Merlin was curious about the sacred gears. Normally, I would direct you to Azazel, but due to circumstances, that's not the case. Give me a minute and I will see what I can do, Ajuka says. Thank you, Ajuka-sama. As the communication circle dissipated, it will be a minute, Lady Merlin, Arthur said. No worries, Merlin said, as she stood up from her seat and walked to the window of the castle that showed the landscape. It was amazing what someone can go through, wouldn't you agree? Merlin says. What do you mean, Lady Merlin? Elaine replied. Issei Hyoudou, or just Issei. He has gone through so many things, and just feeling Arondite's power, he must be special. I wonder how powerful he will become, Merlin said. Who knows, Byuko replied. As he continued to relax on the couch, dews made from the baddest dragon to ever roam, Byuko replied. Yes, this is Great Red. He's the most powerful existence at this moment. She could not gauge Great Red since she had never met the dragon, but if she could get close to Issei, she would have a better understanding. Correct. Issei should be considered a candidate for a dragon god. If he is able to control the power of Great Red within him and fully master the Red Dragon Emperor's power as well, Arthur said. I see, as she pondered. You become more and more interesting to me, Issei. I look forward to meeting with you in person, Merlin said. Ah, hello, Ajuka-sama, Arthur replied as the communication circle appeared once again. Hello, Arthur. You can bring Miss Merlin here. A representative from heaven is on their way to escort her to heaven, Ajuka said. Thank you. As he disconnected the call, Lady Merlin, shall we go? As he gathered Calvarum and prepared a magic circle to Ajuka's place. Yes. As she walked towards him, you coming, little monkey, Merlin said. It was a nickname she enjoyed to annoy Byuko since he liked to call her old lady. Watch it and know. Probably going to see Sung Wunkones in Kyoto or something before mumbling under his breath. Damn old lady, Byuko said. Merlin simply smirked, knowing she got under his skin as she and Arthur teleported away. However, once they did, another magic circle appeared out and came in that neither Byuko or Elaine were expecting. You forgot something, Byuko said, thinking it was Merlin and Arthur until he felt the familiar presence of his former female teammates. Oh, it's you. Hello, Byuko, Elaine. Have you seen Valikun or Oni-san? LeFay said, smiling at seeing the people that she hadn't seen in a while. You're awfully grumpy, Kuroka said, smiling at Byoko's displeasure. He was keeping his emotions in check, since Kuroka did not have the seal on her. She could detect something if something was off with him, so he remained neutral. Luckily, Elaine was able to do so as well. Having been around all the members of the volley team, she knew that Kuroka was capable of. Yeah, aren't we all? Answering Kuroka, deciding to play it safe and give them a fake false sense of security. You just missed Arthur, and I haven't seen Volley either. Anyway, I'm heading out. As he got off the couch later, Byuko said, he made a transport circle that would take him to Sung Wukong. Personally, he wanted to laze around until Arthur came back, but Kuroka and LeFay appearing ruined the moment. He didn't know that Kuroka was stupid enough to forget that he could also detect the mixed essences inside of her. He did not want to be around them. Unfortunately, he left Elaine to deal with them. He also figured that he could warn Arthur, so he wouldn't be surprised when he returned. Huh? I thought Oni-san would be here. You know where he went, Elaine? LeFay said. Since Elaine was her brother's girlfriend, she may know something. He went to see the Mao Beelzebub about the matters that I do not know of. Remaining the neutral as possible, she did not want Kuroka to detect her fault in her words. I shall go inform your father of your arrival, Elaine said. Okay. As she watched the maid leave, guess it's just you and me, huh, Kuroka? LeFay said. Yeah, but as she watched Elaine leave, she felt some doubt, but she wasn't fully sure as it wasn't enough for Kuroka to bother herself with. I guess we can go to my room and freshen up, LeFay said. I suppose. Although, I don't think your clothes would fit me as have these, Naya, Kuroka said, gesturing to her bigger chest. You wear some of the same kimono anyway, so it doesn't matter. She deadpanned as she walked to her room, LeFay did. Hey, Naya, following her teammates, Kuroka did. They were still in earshot of Elaine, who was perfectly walking slowly. She needed to warn Uther not being able to blow a gasket and keep his emotions in check, otherwise everything would fall apart. She would also warn Arthur, and hopefully he does not bring Merlin either. It was not time for LeFay to meet her idol, and Merlin did not tolerate LeFay's actions against Issei. Now we're back with Issei once again. He walked into the cabin, but before he knocked he got nervous. He did not know what he was going to say. If his grandmother was here, he did not know how he would tell her of her betrayal, but he needed to. If there was one person that he thought he could tell anything to, it was his grandmother, and he felt like she needed to know. She would have been able to give him more guidance. It was something that he valued his grandmother highly on. With a deep breath and words of encouragement from Arondite, he knocked on the door. There was some shuffling that could be heard, and finally there was a response. "Who is it?" "Bachan, it's me, Issei," Issei says. There was some shuffling around until the door opened and a strict-looking woman with glasses appeared. There was Issei Hyoudou, the wife of the deceased Juzo Hyoudou, the mother of Goro Hyoudou, but most importantly, the grandmother of Issei. How can I be sure that you are my grandson? His parents said he was missing, Issei said. As if those bastards care about me, Issei said. How the Hyoudou acted like they cared. But if you want me to prove it, you were hoping for a girl, Irina Shoto, my childhood friend. And I be together. You loved her like a granddaughter and took care of us both. When the Hyoudou went out with the Shido, or when the Hyoudou didn't care much after Jisan died, so I could not visit you as much. I know I look different from when you last saw me, but I am Issei, and just Issei. You didn't need to give me an explanation, boy, she said with a smile. I was hoping you would come after they came asking for you. I know you are more responsible than they give you credit for. I knew something was up. When they came and you weren't here, if you had come, you would have told them. So it led me to believe they did something and you finally had enough, Hiroto said. Well, you would be correct, Bachan. It's good to see you, giving her a hug, Issei said. You two, come in, gesturing him to come into the cabinet. Maybe you can do something about that scraggly thing all over your face, Hiroto said. Issei laughed, so he knew that she was referring to the stubble that had grown even more. In honesty, Issei didn't really like it because it tended to be itchy, but he didn't have the capabilities in the wild to groom himself. I don't have a razor to shave it off clean, Hiroto said, but I can trim it. Maybe you'll look more presentable, but first, go shower. My goodness, boy, you stink, Hiroto says. Yes, Bachan, entering the cabin, laughing as he had done some training beforehand and didn't exactly wash up. He had also gotten used to the stink, so he didn't really notice it, considering what his grandmother is the first person he has seen in weeks or in case months. I'll go make some tea, Hiroto said. Considering that you're here, I have a feeling that it's not good. On the bright side, you seem to have bulked up, and when you're trimmed, you look even better. I knew that when you get your looks from my side of my family, they must have skipped a generation, laughing at her own joke. It's better that it's your looks than speaking of my family. I'd like to ask you about yours, Issei said. Freshen up a bit, then we'll talk, Hiroto said, as she locked the door behind him. Yes, ma'am, Issei said, heading towards the bathroom since he had been before, where things were. So it was not an issue. And let me know when you want to trim, Hiroto said. She called out from the kitchen. Okay, Grandma. He could not wait to unlock the aspects of his dragon body because he wouldn't age as fast, meaning he would not grow facial hair once he got it completely shaved off. So that's your grandmother. She seems nice, Arondite said. She may seem nice, but she can be strict. She actually predicted that I would be influenced by my grandfather, and she was right. I just overdid it and forgot her teachings because I couldn't see her as much. Issei says, I see. Well, I will visit when you... I see. Well, your visit will get you back on track, Arondite says. I suppose. I will probably contact the others and let them know how I'm doing, Issei says. That would be nice, Arondite replied. Issei proceeded to shower. It had been long since he took one. In the oasis he would use to separate steam bathe himself. He would make sure streams did not cross because he used another stream to ionize the water for him to drink. He took his time, enjoying the luxury of the shower. Once clean, he walked to the room that he used before when he had visited with the others. He felt relieved that they did not come here to desecrate it like they did his former room. In the Hyoudou, when he found a change of his clothes, a cream-colored shirt and jeans. Due to his muscle mass, the shirt was slightly snug and it defined his muscles well. Heading back downstairs, he found his grandmother in his living room, so she was sipping on some tea. She was calmly watching the afternoon television news that played it on the fireplace. Sit, boy, Hiroto says, never taking her eyes off the television but sensing his presence. Issei was slightly surprise, but sat next to the chair next to the wall. He noticed that the wooden office table moved closer to the chairs, and there was another cup. Hiratu simply poured tea into the other cup, and a mix of cube and sugar, stirred and slid it over to Issei. It's chamomile tea. Something tells me we're both going to need it, Hiratu says. Issei nodded and grabbed the small plate that held up the cup. Took the cup to get a sip. It was calming. He felt a little less stressed, a benefit when drinking some chamomile tea. Now then, tell me what your dumbass parents did this time, Hiratu said, her eyes never leaving the television. Issei nearly choked on his tea because he never heard such language from his grandmother. Don't be surprised, boy. You wouldn't have left that house without a good reason, Hiratu said. Issei simply set the cup back on the plate and set it down on the table, then leaned back in his chair and answered. They betrayed me, Issei said. Go on, Hiratu says. Well, you know those girls that came with us when we visited. Seeing her nod, he continued. Well, they were my girlfriends, Issei said. Your grandfather would have been proud of you getting a harem, Hiratu says. Yeah, well, they betrayed me, and the Hyoudou knew it. They insulted me and giggled like school kids knowing that their girls were cheating on their son, Issei says. The stupidly of cowardliness of some parents. Let me guess. They called you a useless pervert or something along those lines, Hiratu says. Yeah, makes me regret saving them, Issei said. Saving them? How? Hiratu says. Bachan, do you believe in the supernatural? Issei says. Supernatural? You mean demons and angels? It intrigued me in the younger days, along with magic, as she placed her own cup of tea down. It did. Well, that makes things easier, Issei said. Sitting up straight, he held out his right arm. Arondite! Summoning the black blade, from with using a very dark blue, almost black magic circle. Hiratu was shocked. Her mouth gasped as her grandson just summoned a sword from who knows where. In her shock, Arondite spoke to Issei because the blade felt something. Issei, my missing fragment. I can feel it. It is not near here, but it should be in this country. Remember, with me unsealed, others could sense it, Arondite said. I understand. As he sealed the black blade to himself, Issei said, Did you just summon a sword? Hiratu said, coming out of her shock. I did. He was a bit worried about his grandmother's health from the shock they put on her. Thank goodness for the drinking tea all these years. And she placed her hand over her heart, feeling that it beat fast. Then she started to laugh a little. I knew there was something different about you when you visited last time, Hiratu says. What do you mean? Issei said, his eyebrows were raised in surprise. I don't know. I just felt something off about you last time. Some of those girls. And now you're talking about the supernatural. What exactly are you, Issei, looking at her grandson? Well, technically, I'm a dragon, but right now I'm human. I am trying to awaken my dragon body and my partner Ddraig, Issei says. Ddraig, Hiratu replied. He's the soul that resides in my sacred gear. The boosted gear. He's been with me since I was born, Issei said. And the others, Hiratu replied? They're demons, the exception being Irina. She's an angel, although I'm not sure if she still is, Issei says. I would say that's nice, but from the tone of your voice, it begs me to differ, Hiratu says. How so? Issei replied. Well, she's an angel. She could have been there for you. Aren't angels supposed to be good, Hiratu says. I thought the same, but it doesn't matter, clenching his fists. What are you talking about, Hiratu said. Because she cheated on me too, Issei replied, swinging his clenched fist into the wall. But then he realized that his fist was ablaze, thus putting a scorcher dent into the wall. Issei, Hiratu says as he shut up when the flames went out. Issei took over in shock as his flaming fist indented the wall as his grandmother put the flames out, and to her surprise his fist was unscathed. I think you should start from the beginning, Hiratu said as she sat back down and another sip of tea calmed down her heartache steadied. Issei simply nodded as he looked at his fist and wondered, how was the fist unharmed by the flames? He should be human, and the flames should have done something to his human skin. He knew that his fist wouldn't hurt from hitting the wall because of the amount of time that he spent punching trees to strengthen his skin, but the flames should have done something. He didn't even feel them. Well, it started when I asked out on a date at the beginning of the school year. He continued on to list his adventures. His grandmother listened in. She was shocked that he died, but she was more shocked that he died twice. So you're telling me you died twice, and basically you got a new body from a dragon, Hiratu said. Yeah, that would be correct, Issei replied. I would say that's a good thing, that you're not related to your stupid parents, but is not but it does sadden me that we are no longer share the same blood. But you will always be my grandson, Hyoudou said, and you will always be my grandmother, smiling her. He continued going to the Vampire Civil War, the Rogue Exorcist, and the Evil Dragon War, which led him to saving Hyoudou from the disaster, and then his coma, how he ended up there, and then he got into his betrayals. It made Hyoudou sad to see what her grandson went through. She was pleased that he beat up those two perverts, although he was looking out for them and that Issei had repaid them. She became disgusted with her son and his wife for how they treated Issei while growing up, but this was the last straw. I only kept the Hyoudou name for the sake of your grandfather, but now I don't want to be attached to your ex-father. It's the best that I can go back to my maiden name, Hyoudou says. You never told me about that. Could I change my name to it as well? Issei said. Of course you can. You're my grandson. My name is also your name, but it is Yamamoto, and from your attack on my wall, it reminds me of the stories that were told about my ancestors and my family. They said he used to fight with fire, Hyoudou says. Yamamoto? Issei said. Hold on, wait a minute, Bachan. As he activated the communication circle, he hoped another person would respond. Hello? Who is this? A female voice responded. Kasan, it's me, Issei. He didn't see his grandmother's eyebrows raise in confusion. Sochi, are you okay? How are you? Do you need more provisions? Are you eating well? Valena says. I'm fine. I'm with my grandmother, and how are the others? Issei said. That's nice. At least you're not alone. They are doing well. Milikaskan has improved in his own training with the power of destruction. You'll have to see it when you get back. Sir Zex and Grafia are extremely proud of his accomplishments. He looks up to you. He hopes to be as strong as you. When he reaches your age, your Tosan is handling the Gremory clan affairs at the moment. But we'll let you know that you contacted us. Although, why did you take so long? And have you contacted Serapha yet? Or did you wait to contact your mother last? Valena says. No, I haven't. You were the first person to call, Kasan. Also, the reason I could not contact you is because where I am training prevents me from contacting the outside world, like a barrier. And I am glad Milikus is doing well in his training. I'll have to contact Tosan, but later. But I was calling to ask you for a favor. What is it that you need? More provisions? Valena said. No, I was wondering if you could help me change my last name. Issei said. Of course, I expected as much. I have begun the paperwork, so don't worry. So, you will be Issei Biel in no time, or do you prefer Issei Gremory? Valena says. No. I want to be Yamamoto. It's my grandmother's maiden name, and I want to honor it. I'm sorry to disappoint you, and we won't share the same name. I just want something different without feeling like a burden to you guys, Issei says. Aw, I thought you wanted your Kasan's name. He could tell she was pouting a little. As I told you, don't worry. You were never a burden to me or any of us. You brought a spark into our lives and never forget that. And regardless of what you name you choose, you will always be my Sochi, okay? So take care and continue working hard. Your Kasan will always love you, Valena says. Love you too, Kasan. As the communication circle disappeared, a tear rolled down his eyes, though Hyoudou could not see it. I assume that wasn't Miki that you were talking about in this. Tosan that you were talking about is not Goro, Hyoudou says. No, she's actually the mother of one of the girls that betrayed me, and the Tosan is actually her father, Issei says. Your life is becoming a soap opera, Hyoudou said. It caused both of them to laugh. I guess so. I should explain how all of this came to happen. So he continued on about how he was engaged to Rias, and how her family saw him as one of their own, and how he holds no hate against them for what their daughter did, and how they were more like parents than his birth ones. He even explained the ritual that he went through, and how he could found a new love interest, Issei did. I am proud of you, Issei, but tell me, you said you were hurt by that one woman, not necessarily betrayed, but what happened? Hyoudou said. Vice versa. Leaning back to his chair, I thought we were building something. I thought maybe we could have a chance, but she was with someone I thought I considered a father, since Goro was a failure. Couldn't even prepare me for this, gesturing scraggly stubble. It made his grandmother laugh. Don't worry about those hypocrites. From what you told me, despite your perverted nature, they could not see that it was genetic. I even teased you about having sex with that blonde one. What's her name? Hyoudou says. Asia, Issei replied. Well, doesn't matter anymore. Considering how many times you put your body on the line for her, she wasn't meant for this world. She'd be traumatized by her action and she must live with it, Hyoudou said. A bit cold-hearted there, Grandma, Issei said, smiling at her grandma's word. Oh, I know that you were also thinking it. You damn well. You don't give a damn about most of them, Hyoudou says. Most of them? Issei replied. Of course, this Ross Weisse woman, she deserved to give you an answer about why she chose that playboy over you. Same thing with Irina. You know, I care about her like a granddaughter, but she also needs an explanation about why she did what she did. And the pretty boy, as you put it. I think you will get those answers when you can find some peace, Hiroto says. You think so? Issei replied. Well, she may not have been drinking, as you said, but you still deserve an answer. The other one, Pyongyang, screw her. She made her choice. As for Irina, you two have years of friendship together, and that's hard to throw away for both of you, Hiroto said. Huh, you're right. I guess I'll have to speak with Ross Weisse about why she chose him, even if she wanted to be with me. I don't think I could be with her. Not now. The image is too vivid in my head. And you talk about years of friendship. Irina spent those years with Zinovia. She chose her over me, Issei said. You're right. Though from what you've told me of the Zinovia girl, she's just as perverted as you, maybe a little worse. Huh. Who brings condoms to the classroom? People will see her as an easy lay, Hiroto said. Yeah, they just might. Once the school gets wind of their portrayal of what they caused on me, Issei said. Oh, how so? Hiroto says. Well, after I beat up my former friends, I was chilling in the park, and a few girls that I knew came up to me to talk about the incident. I let them know about the whole school will know that they were unfaithful, although, looking back on it, I don't think anyone I gave any names. But I'm sure thanks to that loudmouth that I beat up, they'll figure it out, Issei said. They ruined their social life as well. Speaking of which, how are you handling school? Hiroto said, sending him a glare. Education was quite important to her. Sorry, I'll contact Sona, she's vouching for me, which in a way should be lunchtime at school. I can contact her to see when she can proctor my final exam, Issei said. He created another communication circle and he felt the other person connect to him. Hey, Issei said. That was all he could say before he was interrupted. Not now, Sona said. The communication circle disappeared right after. What Issei did not know is that Sona was debriefing Rias and most of her Parage on their mission. The last thing she needed was for them to remember Issei, so upon hearing his voice, she acted quickly and dismissed the call before Rias and the others could hear it. She made a subtle glance to Konako to see if he picked up on anything with the Nekomata powers, but nothing came from her facial features. Huh? Guess she was busy, but Sona is vouching for me. She's going to be my sister-in-law soon, Issei says. Oh, you already found someone new. That's good, Hiroto says. I can't wait to meet her. Thank you. And you will, when I get back to full strength. But first, your family history, Issei said. Patience, boy. It also makes sense that you brought the sword. You see, the Yamamoto clan was the clan of samurais, so I was not surprised that you were fond of swords. Along with Irina, when the two of you were young, I'm sure that your grandfather and her were playing with sticks. They were thinking they were swords in that secret clearing of yours, Hiroto said. You knew about the clearing, Issei said. Of course. You think you can get by without me knowing? It's how I knew if your birth parents were full of bullshit when they came asking for you. I just wanted to hear your side of the story if you ever came. By the way, I am proud of what you did to Goro, snapping his wrists, and he claims that you're not a man, and they expect you to come back groveling. Looking back on it, when they were doting on those girls, I thought it was because you had a relationship with them, but with everything that has happened, they were replacing you with them, Miranda says. Thanks, Bachan, Issei replied. It was good that you confronted them that problem. Now that you know how they feel about you, it seems that you are very important to the supernatural world, Aratu says. Yeah, I was the pillar of the Alliance, but I am retiring that moniker. The responsibility is too much, and I am still young and would like to live my life a little, Issei says. Like finishing your education, but I understand, but promise me that you will try to find out why they did it. Except the red-haired one. From how you describe her, she seems to be the ringleader and spoiled brat, and the one with black hair and the ponytail, she was overly flirtatious. I judged that she was an escort. No woman should be that flirtatious. Made me skeptical of her, Hiroto said. Rias and Nakano. Yeah, even if I was a pervert, I never asked them to do anything perverted. They slept with me naked. But they followed Rias' example, who claimed that she couldn't sleep without being naked, Issei said. Well, no matter. You have more balls than those birth parents of yours. I doubt they told the girls that you were aware of their infidelity, and even if they did, they didn't care about you, which makes it even more disappointing. You're gonna, oh, how I trusted that girl. However, I don't think that they said anything, because if it was one of those girls' mothers that you were with in that circle or by your ear, her daughter would have been informed that she may have been replaced by you. Let her know how you feel. I think they, your birth parents, I mean, are afraid of knowing the truth in your words. It's like that line that a movie that goes, "You can't handle the truth." I don't think they are prepared for your fate, but only time will tell. Yeah, so about the Yamamoto clan, they were samurais, he says. Yes, hang on, I think I have some old paintings of the founder, and apparently his old sword, remnants of it. It's passed down by many generations. Goro had no interest in them. It'll just be a minute. As she got up from her seat and walked towards a door that seemed to lead to the basement. Oh my god, this is getting lit. I'm sorry. Issei waited for his grandmother to get back as he heard the rummaging around the downstairs in his head. As I feared, your hatred and anger brought out your fire, but also what I expected, Ozai said. Ozai, what do you mean? My anger brought out my fire, Issei said. Yes, you will need to let your anger go. It seems you have it against this girl that you knew in your childhood. When she was mentioned, your anger spiked. I deduced due to your bond with this girl, some feelings cannot be extinguished, Ozai says. I don't love her. Not anymore. Not after what she did, Issei said. Feelings don't necessarily have to be about love. I understand that she ruined that. But all that's left is your hatred for her and your bond as friends. She hurt you more than most, probably because you knew her longer than others. Your grandmother is right. You will need to confront them at some point. You will need to confront her. Your hatred can get you far, but letting go can get you further. Trust me, I would know, Ozai says. Damn, this is getting too relatable, bro. I'm going through the same shit. I guess you're right. I'll try and focus. At least you're not telling me to forgive and forget, Issei said. Oh no. What has happened to you is damn near impossible to forget, since it's happened multiple times. It is how you were introduced into the supernatural world, Ozai said. Don't remind me, grumbling about his first demise, but it did bring to meet some interesting people, Issei said. Indeed. You let go of your hatred of this Rainier. You can do it again, Ozai said. How did you know her name was Rainier? Issei said, causing Ozai to chuckle. Ddraig is not the only person that has been with you. It appears that you will learn more about your ancestry. Your grandmother is coming. Issei snapped out of his daze to look towards the basement door to see his grandmother carrying a long, old case and some books on top of it. And that is where we're going to stop for now. I know, this was a cliffhanger to end on, but my apologies, ladies and gentlemen. I was starting to get in my feelings, and I did not want to. The last time I was in my feelings is when, I'm sure you all remember, it was the Betrayed to Hell and Back. The first Betrayed story I ever did, which was the original one, is when I was super in my feelings. I am sure everybody could tell, because I know. But then again, I guess that was one of my most successful videos of all time, so. Yeah, your boy's definitely in his feelings right now. You know, I got a lot of rage in me. But, and that's actually when I do my best content. Unironically. But yeah, man, I just stopped right there in specific because, my throat's starting to hurt. Actually, that's pretty much just it. That's why you hear me stop and sip some water during some of the recordings. Hopefully I cut those out, but I don't catch all of them because it's hard to look through, like, the 50-minute clip that I record. But, see, I just took another sip then. So, I wanted to explain something. Basically, there's a ton of content coming, all these things. You know, I get to sit down and finally focus again on myself because, well, I got nothing to lose anymore. So, and not only that, but I don't think I've stopped working out for, like, the past 11 days. And I was actually just supposed to be taking a break because my track season was over. And, but yeah, I can't stop training now that happened to me. I can't help it. I don't think I've taken a rest day. Looked rip as shit, though. So, yeah, anyway. Thank you guys so much for the support. Yeah, you guys have no idea what it means to me. Once again, my Patreon is super important right now. I really do appreciate everyone that's been supporting me on the Patreon, my balance breakers, my limit breakers, my ultra and stake members, and even the persons who pay me only $1 a month. I can't tell you how much I'm thankful for it. If I didn't have this to cope with all the stuff that's been happening in my actual life, I don't think I would have been here for very long. So thank you so much for the support, ladies and gentlemen. If you do want to subscribe to my Patreon, High School DxD episode 1 reaction is out right now, and episode 2 is either coming out tonight, which, I mean, today is the 23rd, and then obviously or the 24th. That's when it will be coming out, because I can't wait to sit down and just watch High School DxD with the boys. You know what I'm saying? That I can do that on Patreon. That's sick. You know what I mean? Otherwise, I can't do it on here because I get copyright or any other platform. So thank you so much for the support, ladies and gentlemen. Without any further ado, join the Discord, and Spartanic Arts DxD out.